Chapter 8 The Enemy in the Mines. Bigman had calculated correctly. The other's light was bobbing along ahead of him as he found the opening. Its owner was unaware of him. He must be. Bigman's blaster was ready. He might have shot unerringly, but a blaster would not have left much behind. Dead men tell no tales, and dead enemies explain no mysteries. He pursued with cat-like patience, cutting down the distance between them, following the light, trying to estimate the nature of the enemy. His blaster was always ready. Bigman moved to make first contact. First, radio. His fingers set the control quickly for general local transmission. The enemy might have no equipment to receive that on the wavelengths Bigman could deliver. Unlikely, but possible. Very unlikely and barely possible. Yet it didn't matter. There was always the alternative of a light blaster bolt against the wall. It would make his point clearly enough. A blaster carried authority, and it had a plain way of speaking that was understood in any language, anywhere. He said, his tenor voice carrying all the force it could muster, "Stop, you! Stop where you are and don't turn around. There's a blaster beaded in on you." Bigman flashed on his suit light, and in its glare the enemy froze. Nor did he make any effort to turn around, which was proof enough for Bigman that he'd received the message. Bigman said, "Now turn around." "Slowly." The figure turned. Bigman kept his right hand in the path of his suit light. Its metal sheath was clamped tightly about the large caliber blaster. In the glow of the light, its outline was comfortingly clear. Bigman said, "This blaster is fully charged. I've killed men with it before, and I'm a dead shot." The enemy obviously had radio. He was obviously receiving, for he glanced at the blaster and made a motion as though to raise a hand to block off the blaster's force. Bigman studied what he could see of the enemy's suit. It looked quite conventional. Did the Syrians use such familiar models? Bigman said curtly, "They're keyed in for radio transmission?" There was a sudden sound in his ears and he jumped. The voice was a familiar one, even under the disgusting distortion of the radio. It said, "It's Pee-wee, isn't it?" Never in his life had Bigman needed greater self-control to keep from using his blaster. As it was, the weapon leaped convulsively in his hand, and the figure facing him leaned quickly to one side. "Yarteal!" yelled Bigman. His surprise turned to disappointment. No Syrian, only Yurtil. Then a sharp thought. What was Yurtil doing here? Yurtil said, "It's Yurtil, all right, so put away the beans, shooter." "That gets put away when I feel like it," said Bigman. "What are you doing here?" "The mines of Mercury are not your private property, I think." "Well, I have the blaster they are, you fat-faced cobber." Bigman was thinking hard, and to a certain extent, futilely. What was there to do with this poisonous skunk? To take him back to the dome would reveal the fact that Lucky was no longer in the mines. Bigman could tell them that Lucky had lingered behind, but then they would become either suspicious or concerned when Lucky failed to report. And of what crime could he accuse Yurtil? The mines were free to all at that. On the other hand, he could not remain indefinitely pointing a blaster at the man. If Lucky were here, he would know. And, as though a telepathic spark had crossed the vacuum between the two men, Yurtil suddenly said, "And where's Starr, anyway?" "That," said Bigman, "is nothing you have to worry about." Then, with sudden conviction, "You were following us, weren't you?" And he shoved his blaster forward a little as though encouraging the other to talk. In the glare of Bigman's suit light, the other's glassite-hidden face turned downward slightly as though to follow the blaster. He said, "What if I were?" Again there was the impasse. Bigman said, "You were going along a side passage. You were going to swing in behind us." "I said, what if I were?" Yurtil's voice had almost a lazy quality about it, as though its owner were thoroughly relaxed, as though he enjoyed having a blaster pointed at him. Yurtil went on, "But where's your friend? Near here?" "I know where he is. No need for you to worry." "I insist on worrying. Call him." "Your radio's on local transmission, or I wouldn't hear you so well." "Do you mind if I turn my fluid jet? I'm thirsty." His hand moved slowly. "Careful," said Bigman. "Just a drink." Bigman watched tensely. He did not expect a weapon to be activated by chest control, but the suit light could be suddenly raised to blinding intensity or anything. But Yurtil's fingers finished their motion while Bigman stood irresolute, and there was only the sound of swallowing. Scare you? Asked Yurchill calmly. Bigman could find nothing to say. Yurchill's voice grew sharp. Well, call the man. Call Starr. Under the impact of the order, Bigman's hand began a movement and stopped. Yurchill laughed. You almost adjusted radio controls, didn't you? You needed distance transmission. He's nowhere near here, is he? No such thing, cried Bigman hotly. He was burning with mortification. The large and poisonous Yurchill was clever. There he stood, the target of a blaster, yet winning the battle, proving himself master of the situation, while with every passing second, Bigman's own position, in which he could neither shoot nor lower his blaster, leave nor stay, grew more untenable. Wildly the thought gnawed at him. Why not shoot? But he knew he could not. He would be able to advance no reason, and even if he could, the violent death of Senator Swenson's man would make tremendous trouble for the Council of Science. And for Lucky, if only Lucky were here. Partly because he wished that so ardently, his heart leaped as Yurchill's light lifted slightly and focused beyond him, and he heard Yurchill say, "No, I'm wrong after all, and you're right. Here he comes." Bigman whirled. "Lucky?" In his right mind, Bigman would have waited calmly for Lucky to reach them, for Lucky's arm would be on his shoulder, but Bigman was not quite in his right mind. His position was impossible, his desire for a way out overwhelming. He had time only for that one cry of "Lucky!" before going down under the impact of a body fully twice as massive as his own. For a few moments he retained the grip on his blaster, but another arm was tearing at his hand, strong fingers were wrenching and twisting his. Bigman's breath was knocked out of him, and his brain was whirling with the suddenness of the attack, and his blaster went flying. The weight lifted from him, and when he began to turn to struggle to his feet, Yurchill was towering over him, and Bigman was staring into the muzzle of his own blaster. "I have one of my own," said Yurchill grimly, "but I rather think I'll use yours. Don't move. Stay that way. On hands and knees. That's right." Never in his life had Bigman so hated himself. To be tricked and hoodwinked this way, he almost deserved death. He would almost rather die than ever have to face Lucky and say, "Look behind me and said you were coming, so I turned," he said in a strangled voice. "Shoot if you have a nerve for it. Shoot! And Lucky'll track you down and see to it that you spend the rest of your life chained to the coolest, smallest asteroid ever used as a prison. Lucky will do that. Where is he? Find him. I will, because you'll tell me where he is, and tell me, too, why he came down to the mines in the first place. What's he doing here? To find Syrians, you heard him. To find comet gas, growled Yurchill. The senile fool Peverell might have talked Syrians, but your friend never believed any of it, not even if he only has the brains. You do. He came down for another reason. You tell me. Why should I? To save your miserable life. That's not enough reason for me, said Bigman, and he rose to his feet and took a step forward. Yurchill moved backward until he was leaning against the wall of the tunnel. "One more motion, and I'll blast you with pleasure. I don't need information very badly. It'll save time, but not much. If I spend more than 5 minutes with you, it's a waste." "Now let me tell you exactly what I think. Maybe it'll teach. Now let me tell you exactly what I think. Maybe it'll teach you that you and your tin hero Star are fooling nobody. Neither one of you's good for anything more than tricks with force knives against an unarmed man." Bigman thought gloomily, "That's what's crippling the cobber. I made him look like a jackass in front of the boys, and he's waiting for me to crawl." "If you're going to do all the talking," he said, squeezing as much contempt into his voice as he could manage, "you might as well shoot. I'd rather be blasted than talked to death." "Don't race for it, little fellow, don't race for it. In the first place, Senator Swenson's breaking the Council of Science. You're just an item, tiny one. Your friend Starr's just another item, and not a much bigger one. I'm the one who's going to do the breaking. We've got the council where we want it. The people of Earth know it's riddled with corruption, that its officers waste the taxpayers' money and line their own pockets." "That's a filthy lie," broke in Bigman. "We'll let the people decide that. Once we puncture the phony propaganda the council puts out, we'll see what the people think. You try that? Go ahead and try." "We intend to. We'll succeed, too. And this will be exhibit number 1. You two in the mines. I know why you're here. The Syrians. Ha! Starr either put Peverell up to telling the story, or he just took advantage of it. I'll tell you what you two are doing down here. You're faking the Syrians. You're setting up a Syrian camp to show people. I chased them off single-handedly, Starr will say. Oh, Lucky Starr, big hero. Some etherics make a big deal out of it, and the council calls off its Project Light on the sly. They milk it for all it's worth, and they'll get it out of their skins. Except they won't be, because I'll catch Starr in the act, and he'll be under so much mud under shoe, and so will the council. Bigman was sick with fury. He longed to tear at the other with his bare hands, but somehow he managed to hold himself in leash. He knew why Yurchill was talking as he was. It was because the man didn't know as much as he pretended. He was trying to get more out of Bigman by making him blind mad. In a low voice, Bigman tried to turn the tables. You know, you putrid cobber, anyone ever punctured you and let out the comic gas, your pea-sized soul would show itself clear. Once it was right out of you, you'd collapse to nothing but a loose sack of dirty skin. Yurchill shouted, "That's enough!" But Bigman shouted over him, his high-pitched voice ringing, "Shoot, you yellow pirate! You showed yellow at the dinner table. Stand up to me man to man with bare fist, and I'll show you yellow again, bloated as you are." Bigman was tense now. Yet Yurchill acted in rash haste now. Yet Yurchill aim on impulse, and Bigman would jump. Death was probable, but there would be a chance. But Yurchill seemed to only stiffen and grow colder. "If you don't talk, I'll kill you, and nothing will happen to me. I'll claim self-defense and make it stick." "Not with Lucky, you won't. He'll have his own troubles. When I'm through with him, his opinions won't mean a thing." The blaster in Yurchill's hand was steady. "Are you going to try to run from it?" "From you?" Bigman said. "It's up to you," said Yurchill coldly. Bigman waited without saying a word while Yurchill's arm grew stiff, and Yurchill's headpiece dropped slightly as though he were taking aim, though at point-blank range he could not miss. Bigman counted the moments, trying to choose the one in which to make his desperate jump for life, as Lucky had when Mindy's had similarly aimed at him. But here there was no second party to tackle Yurchill as Bigman had tackled Mindy's on that occasion, and Yurchill was no panicky, mind-sick Mindy's. He would laugh and aim again. Bigman's muscles tensed for that final jump. He did not expect to live for more than 5 more seconds, perhaps.